kind of start with introducing our topic, and then giving you a little bit of background on Reviewer, and kind of why we're hosting this webinar. All right, so today we are going to be going over the most overlooked phase of the grant lifecycle. And that phase being kind of the tracking stage, the metrics, the data, kind of down to the nitty-gritty. So the reason we're hosting this webinar, as many of you know, Reviewer is an applicant management platform. So all that means is that any program where you're intaking any sort of application, Reviewer can run it. So that'll be things like scholarships, grant programs, award programs, different competitions, things like that. And just over the years at Reviewer, we have ran thousands of different grant programs. So we've just kind of compiled some just tips and tricks, some trends we're seeing a lot of our current clients doing, and then some issues we see a lot of programs having. So my name is Callie. I manage all of our marketing here at Reviewer. Um, and on this call, it looks like she's running a little late from a meeting, but she'll be in here in a second. I'll also have Allie here from our team. She is a member of our client services team, so she works one-on-one with clients every day. She hears firsthand the issues that they're having, sees how they're running their programs, solving some of these things. So she'll be able to offer some of the insights there as well. Um, Oh, it looks like Hallie just popped in right now. Perfect timing. Um, yeah, so she'll be able to provide kind of the client perspective for you. And then I will just kind of give you guys a little bit of what we're seeing in the grant space in general. So I just want to note that as I'm moving along here, the chat is open. So if you have questions as we're going along, feel free to just drop them in the chat and we'll try to answer as we get going. All right, so what we're kind of going to go over today, I mentioned, is more like the data and the tracking side. So the first thing is the visibility gap. The second thing we're going to touch on is post award deliverables. So things that go out or used after your grants have already been given out. Progress reports with your grant programs as they're going along, some early warning signs with some struggles that may be going on, and then impact reporting, and then a little live platform demo, which Hallie is going to give us. All right, so we'll get started with the visibility gap. So what this is a lot of grant makers that we're seeing kind of lose track of their impact as the award goes out. So what we typically see is you guys will award a program. Um, you'll pick your winners, you'll disperse your funds, and then it kind of stops there. Um, so that's kind of what we're seeing, and we're kind of wanting to take it a step beyond that. So um, some of the things that we're actually wanting to see is just like our funds being used the way that they're intended to be. We're wanting to have some oversight into hitting different milestones and things that are happening in our programs. And right now, we're just kind of seeing a lack of that in general. So, just wanting to kind of start to shed some light on some of those. So, moving right in.
Yeah, and with that, we can kind of start talking about making those post-award deliverables a little bit more simple. And so instead of kind of having to chase around all of your paperwork and all of your different files, your emails, we're going to automate the collection of those agreements, disbursement details, and required documentation. And so, again, kind of touching back on that, instead of having those individual email grant agreements or tracking your responses through spreadsheets, chasing the missing documents. So, if you have multiple people that are kind of helping you guys collect those grant applications and grant follow-ups, that's multiple people's emails that you have to fish through and be waiting on, which can be super inconvenient for you and then also for that applicant because that's going to push back your time. Again, with that, with things being in multiple places, no visibility into who's actually complete. And so if we send multiple documents to different people, or different people just have different documents and applications coming in at different time, we have no visibility of who is complete. And then again, the time aspect of all of that. By the time we pull everything together, every document from everyone's email, spam, trash, wherever that might be, it's going to take weeks to actually get a solid idea of who all has actually applied and fully submitted to you. So where we can kind of combat that issues is we can talk a little bit more about our automated workflow. And so the system is going to automatically send personalized notifications. It's going to be personalized to every single applicant that that's sent to. Each applicant for your grant is going to have a portal for their entire submission, for all of their uploads. They're going to have those automatic reminder emails, those custom automatic reminders. And then they also are going to have a real-time completion dashboard so they can see what status they're in. They can see the status of their acceptance if that's kind of what they need to work on. And so having all of that in one place is going to make the ability for their grant application to be complete in days rather than weeks. So kind of scrolling down a little bit, the modern collection looks a little bit more like secure portal upload, everything in one place, not having to trust our email providers, our spam hacks, however that could be. Smart reminders, we are going to be, you can just automatically ensure that those applicants are getting those emails when you have them set to. And that, again, is going to take something off your guys' plate. And then the admin dashboard. So instead of having to keep track of everything in an email, you can see the status of every single submission, every single grant acceptance, the status of each of those submissions, which is going to be super helpful. So with that, I'm going to share my screen really quickly, and I'm going to show you a little preview of what your grant application process is going to look like, and then I'll show you what that will look like as an admin in the admin dashboard. And so this example is a first page of your grant eligibility. So making sure that they are the correct age, proving that age with the date of birth, and then proving that they have never applied for this grant before. Obviously, this is going to be custom and personalized for every single event, but here's just a quick example. This can be more, less questions, whatever you want it to be. And then as we kind of move forward, here is a great example of what your submission form can look like. So this first page is just going to be some kind of personal information. So nothing diving too deep into your actual grant application process, but just kind of building that applicant profile here in this page. Another great example is these files. They are secure. We can upload up to 130, above 130 different file types, which is super helpful. And then they are viewed and embedded directly within Reviewer. So everything is secure in Reviewer. Moving forward, here's an example of what your grant application process could look more like. So this is going to be maybe the bulk of your application where they are getting in depth as to answering those grant questions specific to what they're applying for. And then from there, I'm going to show you the admin dashboard. So this is what it is going to look like when you first log into Reviewer and go into your event. This is the admin dashboard. So a really great way to get a quick view on numbers. So how many days you have left, how many submissions you have so far, the status of each submission, the status of your supplemental form, which could be that grant acceptance, dates and deadlines. Just a great overview of everything that's kind of going on in your event. Quick way to kind of get to the bottom of things without having to dig too deep into those submissions.
Right. So now we are going to move on to progress reports. So Hallie kind of touched on this in her demo. Essentially what we have seen be really effective for clients is just being able to track the progress of your program as you're going along. So like Hallie kind of showed, being able to see as an admin, say we're a couple weeks to our deadline and we don't have as many submissions as we normally do, being able to track those milestones, being able to see how many of your judges have completed things, how many applications are still open, how many are started and never finished, things like that. Just having oversight into that can make your guys' job a lot quicker, and just overall a lot easier. All right. So now I'm going to go over just a couple kind of early warning systems, kind of help identify programs that are struggling or may not be be going in the direction that you want them to. So the first one we're going to kind of go over is behavioral signals. So that's missed reporting deadlines, incomplete or vague updates. So that is with your forms in general. Lack of response to communications. This can be a big warning signal if you're sending out emails and nobody's answering you, things like that. You might be emailing judges, or you might be emailing applicants. And if you're not hearing back or receiving applications, things like that, that might be a telltale sign that possibly emails are going to spam, things like that. Um, and then lots of requests for timeline extensions, or just emailing you in general with lots of questions. That might tell you that possibly your submission might be a little bit too lengthy, or it may not be clear enough that they're struggling with it. And then performance signals. So milestones consistently behind schedule. So if you guys are running these grant programs year to year, we typically see that you guys know based on where you're at in your program, typically how many submissions you have. So if you're under that, being able to keep up with that and track that in real time to know you're off your normal numbers is super important. And then overall, just budget underspending or overspending. Depending on kind of how you're running your program. And then just your overall metrics being below your projections. Being able to catch that before your 2 days before your deadline is due for submissions is super important, because you can make changes, you can send stuff out, you can try to get the word out more about your programs before that deadline actually hits.
Yeah. So talking a little bit more into managing your multi-year grants and renewals. So kind of piggybacking off of what Callie just mentioned with your year to year. So the multi-year challenge is that your grants are going to extend beyond a single year. So without that systematic renewal process, you're going to end up with your manual tracking, your inconsistent evaluation criteria, and then decisions that are going to actually end up being based on your incomplete information, which obviously is not fair to those grantees. So some common renewal issues are going to be the no standardized renewal criteria, decisions based on relationships, not data. So if you have some of those reviewers that are maybe have a more personal relationship for your grantees, that's something that we want to kind of stray away for and block out as we are setting up that review process. Missing performance history, so missing maybe some past grant, whether they've accepted, whether they have received, applied. That's really important from year to year. Last minute scrambles for information. So last minute trying to figure out information for your grantees or for your actual submission form, whatever that might be. And then unclear expectations for grantees. So year to year, if we're changing, if we're scrambling, if we have no history, your grantees are going to have no idea what they expect from year to year, which with running the same grant cycle from year to year, that's not an uncertainty that those grantees should have to experience. For a more structured approach, we can have some predefined renewal requirements. So we can have that set up within the form that before they are able to reapply for this grant, there are some renewal requirements. That was kind of similar to that eligibility check that I showed in our last couple slides. Performance-based evaluation. So we're going to make sure that we don't have judges evaluating someone that they have a biased relationship. And then we're going to make sure that those evaluations are all equal. They're going to have the same criteria for everyone, the same opportunities for everyone, making that more fair for those grantees. Complete historical tracking. So making sure that we have information from year to year that is easily accessible and trackable. Automated renewal workflows. So making sure that we have our renewal workflows automated, making sure that those are easy access for all of our grantees and for our admin. And then clear criteria communicated upfront. We are going to try and keep things as simple and as similar from year to year, just to kind of better that grantee experience. So overall, what a modern renewal process will look like is performance tracked throughout. So not only from year to year, but throughout your entire submission process, throughout your evaluation process, your entire submission process as a whole. Reminder notifications, keeping you as an admin reminded, keeping your reviewers updated, keeping your submitters updated. All super important and even better that they can be automated. Simplified renewal application. So all they have to do is update their budget and objectives. And then any information that they have inserted in years past is going to be pre-populated and they are going to have an easier application process. Performance dashboard for review. So those reviewers can see all the grant history, the outcomes that they have achieved with those grants, and then that compliance record. And then the last thing is data-informed decisions. So approve, deny, or adjust funding based on the actual performance, not just your gut feeling. So again, with having that set criteria, with having the non-biased review, those are really important data-informed decisions.
All right, so now we are going to move into impact reporting that proves ROI. So essentially, what we're kind of focusing on here is we understand why your impact reporting really matters. So we know your organization is giving out these grants for a reason. And typically, when your program is finished and you've awarded them, your organization wants to see the impact of these programs. They're giving away this money, they're taking the time to review them, run this whole program. They want to know how this is impacting people in the community and the people that are receiving these grants. So, some of our really important impact metrics is seeing how your program is improving from year to year, having those numbers. Are your applications going down? Are they going up? Being able to track things like that. Making sure different community problems are addressed. Making sure that the people who receive your grants are using them the way that you intended. Making sure that you're able to fully understand how those impacted them and helped them. In a way, we kind of handle that in reviewers. We actually have an option once your grants are awarded, your winners of your grants are actually allowed to come back into reviewer. You can have them upload things. You can get statements you can use for social media or blog posts or whatever you might need. And you can have them write you things like that. But ultimately, just kind of gauging the impacts from your winners to make sure that these grants are doing in your community what you intended them to do.
Yeah, so turning that data into strategic action. So making sure that that post-award data doesn't just prove the impact, but that it actually reveals what's working so you can do more of it. So it's really important to keep track and actually be reactive instead of just kind of taking that information and storing it. Like we want to do something with it. We want to utilize that. And so just kind of talking about the strategic value of the post-award data. Identifying high performing strategies. So, understanding which of your strategies throughout the years or throughout this year, which is more consistently giving you the best outcome, and then doubling down on what actually works. So, kind of trial and error, figuring out, tracking what works best, and then ensuring that we double down on that and kind of utilize that moving forward. Spot organizational patterns. So, do certain grantee characteristics predict success? So kind of understanding what is common practice with throughout your grants that you have provided in years, and kind of refining your selection criteria based on that. Informing program design. So adjust your funding amounts, your timelines, supporting structures based on what the data shows. So again, kind of utilizing that data to customize your program design. And then again, back on that organizational patterns, kind of again, doubling down on everything about your program based on your past data. Building learning communities. So, sharing those insights across grantees so that everyone benefits from that collective experience. Kind of giving everyone, sharing the sugar with everyone, letting everyone kind of having that opportunity. And the last thing is demonstrating that adaptive management. So, showing your stakeholders that you are continuously growing and moving, you're not stagnant, you are not continuing to kind of do your same approach as years past. You're working to improve and kind of utilize your information that you have received from years past.
Right. So I know we kind of fired quite a bit at you pretty quickly. And we kind of just touched on a lot of the numbers and the data side of things. But now we're just going to kind of open it up for questions. This can be questions about reviewer in general, some other pieces of programs that you have questions on, some best practices, anything like that. Feel free to start dropping some of those questions in the chat.
Can it track expenditures by invoices and reimbursement requests by category? So yes, that's actually something that is kind of unique about reviewers that we can auto group, auto categorize based on their category that they're requesting a grant upon. And so we can kind of sort by that and then track by what they have requested in years past. Um, and then obviously by those invoices and reimbursement requests. Um, it looks like we have another question in how does reviewer integrate with accounting systems, etc. Reviewer allows for a lot of document uploads, links, whatever that might be. We don't specifically integrate with other platforms, I would say, if that's the right way to put it. But we do allow for everything to kind of be imported. We can link things. There are kind of ways to integrate in a way that's not completely conjoining platforms, if that makes sense. Another great question, can you design reports or only preset reports that are provided? We do allow for custom reports. We do that with many of our clients. Depending on the complexity of the report or how large it is, we do charge. But we do come with a bunch of default provided to everyone reports that can be useful to you all, but we also do allow for custom reports. So pretty much any report that you can think of or design in your head, we can run for you. That's another great question. What makes our program better than others on the market? The thing that I think is a really great selling point for us, a reviewer, is that we are a lot more personable than our competitors. We have three customer success people on the line from Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. We set up calls with you when you go live, before you go live, setting your event up. And so you have a designated reviewer team member that is with you every step of the way. It's not kind of just thrown to the wolves and you figure it out on your own. Anytime you have a question, a concern, anything along those lines, you can reach out to either your specific team member that has helped you from start to finish, or you can reach out to anyone. We have pretty much constant support. We have people in all the time, even after hours. And so obviously our technology and our features that we offer everyone is fantastic, but I also think that it's super important to note the more personable side of that there are real humans working with you from start to finish throughout your entire reviewer process. And then obviously we do keep up with our competitors with our technology, innovations, everything along those lines. So we're more than just the technology company, I would say.
Yeah, and to kind of piggyback off of Hallie, in the next couple months, we are launching some new AI features, which is something we haven't seen competitors kind of move into that space. So to just tease that a little, Reviewer is coming out with a lot of new features that really are unique to our platform. And if you have any more questions that you think of later on, feel free to book a meeting and talk to one of our team members. So thanks for hopping on our webinar today.